there's a huge gap on energy. Energy is used by all UK businesses, whether it be a small office or whether it be a large factory. There's a much more sophisticated way by applying wholesale strategies than just going to a broker and say, renew my contract. I really didn't think this is what I'd be doing. I didn't think I'd be in an energy business right now. And we said, we'll help them with the energy crisis because we created this concept to effectively help navigate that crisis. And upon doing that, the demand we were getting inbound was outstanding. And it quickly became that, okay, instead of just helping people, we need to create something. And that's where ENERGYbubble was born.
Today on the podcast, we have Aaron Dardi, who is the founder of ENERGYbubble. They're an innovative way for businesses to lower their energy bills. Aaron grew up wanting to be an investment banker and wanting to go to LSE. He was able to achieve both of those things. But while working in the investment banking industry, personal circumstances meant he had to leave that and focus elsewhere. He then started a business with his brother during the COVID pandemic, where he was able to learn a lot and they were able to scale very quickly. After this, he worked in a family office where he was able to work with many different family businesses, and he was supporting them in different ways. Along this journey, the idea for ENERGYbubble came about, where they noticed that some of the companies were really struggling with their energy needs. Originally, it was just meant to be servicing companies within their own network, but they realised the commercial demands were so big that they had to spin something out and take it full time. Since doing that, they've continued to grow, expand the team, and what they've got coming is really exciting. I'm Umar from the Bay HQ, and this podcast is powered by HPC Innovation Banking. So, Aaron, great to have you on today. What I'd love to hear about is, like, when you were growing up, did you ever think that one day you'd be doing something like what you're doing today, or what were your ambitions?
I really didn't think this is what I'd be doing. I didn't think I'd be in an energy business right now. I was one of those people, it's quite a common story, that when you're in high school and you're quite good at maths, that I want to be an investment banker and I want to go to LSE. And I became quite fixed on that vision. So majority of my high school life, year 9 onwards, it was driven to getting the grades to get into LSE and to become an investment banker. I hadn't quite thought of the nuances of what investment banking meant. I kind of just pushed on and saw how far I could get with that.
Why was it LSE in particular? Because I know that you had a really big fixation on LSE.
I think when you go to see what materials are available online and when you speak to careers advisors at school, it becomes quite clear that they're forcing you to, that is the only real pathway if you want to guarantee success in a specific field. And there's an image that you have to go to this university to be able to have the best opportunity with certain firms. I later learned that that isn't necessarily the case, but that's all I had to go on. Careers advisors were very much like, if you want to go into investment banking, you need to go to the very best university. So it became laser focus on that.
And obviously you got into LSE, and was it what you imagined it to be? Was it what your dreams come true?
I'm not quite sure on the answer on that, but when I was there, I felt like it was a very different world. It became nothing at all to do with education. And that was broadly fine with me because I saw it as a means to get into the career I wanted to get in. But I really feel like every ounce of creativity had disappeared. It was very much tunnel vision by everybody, a lot of competition and talking about who's applying to what internships. It wasn't, I'd say, the best culture. It didn't promote creative thinking. It didn't promote doing something out of the box. It was very much that when March or February hits and applications open, you are there sending in CVs, cover letters, and it was a bit like running on a running track, and it was a bit intense. So it wasn't what I expected I didn't learn what I thought I would learn from that, but I took other lessons back, which are really useful.
So you also run things on the side of that as well, right? And societies. And do you feel like that helped you keep some kind of level of balance, or what encouraged you to do those kind of things?
I think for societies, I really got involved with the Sikh Punjab Society because that was quite important to me. My upbringing has been quite cultural, so to maintain that kind of connection, it was really, really good for me. I became president of that society. I think the con of that is university societies pose their own issues and politics, and it can sidetrack you from other things that are important. So I think it disturbs the balance, but you have to have you've got to say to yourself that this is what I want out of my university experience. This is what I want out of running a society. This is what I want out of the academic side. So whatever balance I need to strike, I need to do that. But I sometimes got that balance wrong.
Because I think sometimes people who run society universities, it's almost a precursor to entrepreneurship down the line in some ways, because it's testing your skills out, right? Can you run something? Can you be the leader? And like you said, there's often problems in societies, right? You can't keep everybody happy. And it's just like a microcosm of when you're becoming an entrepreneur down the line, and how do you deal with those issues? How do you try to maintain the peace while also making the impact that you want to make as well, right? And from your degree, you then went into the banking industry as you hoped for. How was that process? Was it something which was quite fulfilling for you, or how was that transition?
So I managed to get an internship at NatWest. I had a great time. I didn't think I would. I went into that thinking it probably isn't the brand name I was expecting. That was one of the first offers I got, and I was applying to other roles. But as what happens when you're in second, third year of uni, you need to then put a lot of effort into your exams to get the grades you need to. So I thought it was a good opportunity to take the internship, and I had an absolutely fantastic time. I then went on to take on the full-time role there. And when I first started, you're put on to different placements, and I was put on to the specialist asset finance team. And that doesn't scream sexy. It isn't the investment banking kind of ECM world or M&A that people are maybe had their dreams set on. I went in with quite a bad attitude, I think, to that I can't wait for this rotation to be over. I can't wait to be out of this, and I can't wait to move over to leverage finance. I had perhaps the best time there. The amount I learned, the mentors I found within that team, the kind of deals I got exposure to, and a lot of that knowledge I've picked up I'm using in my life day to day. So what I learned from that is you don't have a preemptive view on what an experience is going to be. You can always make the best out of it. So I had a really good time during that experience. I felt that pretty much majority of people in the banking world, when they go into a junior role, they feel like the hierarchy is quite rigid and they don't get the best out of that. The ones who are director and above want to make it known that we were in that position once. I never experienced that. I think I just happened to meet really, really good people along the way, and they really wanted to boost my knowledge at every opportunity.
And how long did you stay in the banking industry for?
So I was across asset finance, leverage finance for just under 2 years. And then for personal circumstances, I had to step away from that role. I was really deep into my role, but something happened personally, which meant I had to step away from that. And it was in that break that then I went on to doing another venture with my younger brother.
So tell us about the other venture you started off with, right? Where did the idea come from? What made you go for that rather than trying to find another job? Or how did that all come about?
What happened is my father was traveling, and it was becoming a minefield on how do you travel in COVID. A certain country requires you to have a test so many hours beforehand. That information isn't that transparent as a consumer unless you're really well versed in digital and web. You can't find the information. He said, why don't you set up a business doing the testing? There's many businesses out there, very, very large brands doing the testing, but why don't you just make it better, make it more accessible? And my initial view was, I will help my brother do it, but this won't work. There's huge brands out there. They will take over all the market, but we'll try it. What is the worst that can happen? And very, very quickly, I was proven wrong again. So we got government accredited. We got the necessary approvals, ISO 15189, and everything you need to run that medical testing business, brought on the necessary expertise. And very quickly, we were doing an awful lot of tests, and we were dealing with some really great clients. An opportunity we found within that space is corporate clients needed an option on how to test, production crews, anyone who was still operating in COVID. And we soon got a lot of corporate clients who were sending clients to us for testing. We set up bespoke booking portals for them. So we just made that customer journey on the corporate side easier. And on the consumer side, we made it more accessible. We had phone lines set up. We developed our own tool, which said that if I'm flying to this country via Dubai or via somewhere else, that it would tell you that you need to book your appointment on this day. We were pretty much the only testing company doing that, because a lot of people took the view that we don't want to take any risk as a firm. Book your test as and when you feel like it, and we just give you the results. We don't want any advisory. And that's where we slotted in. And that business went really, really well. I mean, COVID didn't go on forever, thankfully. But what I learned in that business was an immense amount of knowledge, because that was a truly operational business, actually operating physical locations, dealing with multiple counterparties. And I think that was the biggest telltale sign that running a business isn't easy. So if I'm ever going to do it and think of an idea, I need to have every base covered before I jump in.
And how is it running that with your brother as well? Because, so obviously you've got the finance background, your brother obviously brought other things to the table. How did you juggle that? And how, because obviously you got exposure to things you hadn't done before at the operational side. How did you split those challenges up between you, and how did you manage that?
I think working with a family member has its own challenges, but overall, I think there's huge benefits, because running an operational business is very, very stressful, especially the kind of business we were operating where the deadlines were very, very important. So by working with someone you can be quite upfront with, you can be transparent on splitting workload, and you can bootstrap together. If you want to stay up at home in the office till 3 a.m, bashing out reports, whatever you need to do to get the job done, that's very, very easy to do. So it was really good. We have different skill sets. Mine's more finance, so I was getting the corporate deals, putting the systems in place. My brother was physically running the locations. Operationally running a business is very challenging. It comes with its own issues, staffing issues, and that's something that when you're involved in a career like banking, you're quite distant to. You turn up at an office and you do your work via Outlook. It's really hard work, but it doesn't present the challenges of running an operational business.
So once you knew that was going to start wrapping up, right, once there wasn't the same demand as it used to be, because touch wood, things are now better in terms of the pandemic, were you thinking now, like, I really love that, I want to do another business in the future? Or you're like, that was really hard. Do I go back to something more easy? Or not that banking is easy, but something more stable, I guess. What was your experience like there? Did it give you that hunger to do more, or was it?
I think what it taught me is what I want out of business. I think very early on it cemented that I want to be an entrepreneur of some kind, and maybe be involved in multiple businesses, whatever shape or form. But I knew that entrepreneurship would be the overall umbrella. However, what I think the business specifically taught me was what I actually find rewarding. I think a lot of people, especially in the pathway I've taken, going to LSE, going into investment banking, financial reward is a big driver for a lot of people, and it should be. I mean, it's no doubt that we shouldn't talk about that. Financial reward is a really important thing. But when I found myself doing really late nights running a business, what really motivated me is, getting the problem solved, getting the deal done. And that taught me that if I want to be involved in the business, it can't solely be for financial reward, because that's not where my drive comes from. My drive comes from when, you're working with a client and you eventually solve their problem, you eventually put pen to paper on that contract. That to me is the reward. So that's why that was a big consideration when I was thinking about different ideas. There were a number of ideas I had, ideas which people were willing to support, but the best one at the time, I believe, was pursuing ENERGYbubble and seeing how that's grew.
Looking at that as well, so you've now started to wind that side of the business down a bit. Was there a transition period, or was it straight into ENERGYbubble?
So I took a bit of time out and I helped with family businesses. So my family and family associates operate businesses across a variety of industry. So because of my finance background and strategy as well, which I'd picked up from running the COVID testing business, I assisted and plugged in different roles there, kind of taking almost on like a COO role of different arms. And that was really, really good. I mean, I was involved in some really successful businesses, high turnover businesses. It was really exciting, but the reward was limiting, because ultimately the business is running themselves quite well. They're quite stable. Most of them have been running for over 15, 20 years. There wasn't much need for creativity because of the sectors they operated in. However, one thing we found in one of those businesses was there's a huge gap on energy. We faced our own energy challenges in one of the businesses. So why don't we fix this issue? And the first idea we had was, why don't we just fix this issue for all our associates? Luckily, operating in the space we have as a family and our associates, my in-laws' family, between that network, there's a lot of independent business owners we know in that network. And we said, we'll help them with the energy crisis, because we created this concept to effectively help navigate that crisis and sophisticate that procurement pathway. And upon doing that, the demand we were getting inbound was outstanding. And it quickly became that, okay, instead of just helping people, we need to create something. And that's where ENERGYbubble was born. It was a concept we were doing, and we spun it out, commercialized it, and then started going to market with it. And so far it's going quite well.
Can you explain what ENERGYbubble actually does as if we're like 5 years old?
So energy is used by all UK businesses, whether it be a small office or whether it be a large factory. They have to use either electricity or gas. There's other fuels, but keeping it simple. And majority of businesses have pretty much used a broker and said, can you get me an energy contract? And they renew that every year. Now, for those who are spending quite a bit on energy, where some businesses it's the first, second, or third cost component on the P&L, there's a much more sophisticated way by applying wholesale strategies than just going to a broker and say, renew my contract. One, because you can buy better, and one, you can be more transparent. Secondly, you can be more transparent. And that transparency is something that hasn't been in this industry at all. It's not hard to find an article with a quick Google search on a corrupt broker, hidden commissions, hidden fees, bad practices. So being able to shine a light on that and offering a better product made it quite a rewarding product we thought to bring to market.
So once you're getting this demand started to come in and you're now going to spin this out, as you said, you're doing all these different roles for different family businesses and family associate businesses. What made you decide ENERGYbubble is where I want to dedicate my time and go full time into that, or majority of your energy?
So ignoring the pun is because I needed something where, first of all, to grow a concept. Because although we were helping people in our network with it, to develop a brand and develop systems that work for actually a commercial product for a B2B service business, there's so many other challenges and hurdles on the way. The amount of legal costs we had to go in to develop our own bespoke agreements. And all of these learning curves for me were motivational. Every day we're in this business, we're growing to do something new, or we're speaking to somebody about a unique opportunity. And I need to be involved in a business that's doing that, that's doing something unique, offering something superior that's already there, and just generally fun. So in my role, majority of the time, I'm talking to independent business owners, talking about how we can help them, keeping our existing client base up to date on the market, and keeping my face out there. And I really enjoy that, because majority of my day is spent to people who've ran successful businesses, grew successful businesses, and I get to pick up tips and tricks from them, which they're really happy to share. And majority of business owners are really happy to see a young entrepreneur come out with an idea and really push it. And I've got a lot of British Asian entrepreneurs who are customers of mine, and they're really supportive. They're really willing to bang the ENERGYbubble drum for us without asking, and for them to share their own experiences, which means that as an MD of the business, my role is basically learning every day from clients and from prospective clients as well.
We hope you're enjoying the episode so far. We just want to give a quick shout out to our headline partners, HPC Innovation Banking. One of the biggest challenges for so many startups is finding the right bank to support them. Because you might start off and try to use a traditional bank, but they don't understand what you're doing. You're just talking to an AI assistant, or you're talking to somebody who doesn't really understand what it is you're even trying to do. HPC have got the team they've built out over years to make sure they understand what you're doing. They've got the deep sector expertise, and they can help connect you with the right people to make your dreams come true. So if you want to learn more, check out hpcinnovationbanking.com. It's really good to hear that, because I think one of the problems we try to challenge right at the beginning as well is that a lot of times we find you think traditionally British Asians don't always help each other. So it's great to hear you having an experience where these owners are talking to you and trying to help you, especially, as you said, as somebody who's relatively younger compared to a lot of the other entrepreneurs, right? Mm-hmm. And they're seeing you and taking you under their wing. And you said about there, you got the legal challenges, you got all these different challenges at the beginning. What was something that maybe you had more optimism about that's been harder than you thought it was going to be, and you had to overcome that and get through it?
I think one is branding, because one thing we're exposed to a lot is consumer brands. So understanding what is on a billboard and things. Obviously, there's people who are experts in that profession, but we all see it day in, day out. So we have a rough idea that if I wanted to launch a cake or something for the general UK consumer, I know what messaging I need to put across. I know what language I need to use. Whereas transitioning into a fully B2B business where you've got such a range of clients. I mean, my clients range from some of the biggest multi-site businesses in the UK to single site cafes. I mean, that's the extent of where our business ranged from. So to know how to brand that and how to deliver the messaging. And what we quickly learned is don't be rigid. Mm-hmm. And I think that's where we've won a lot of businesses compared to some of the long established large consultancies and PLCs, is because we weren't rigid. If a client needs a report in a certain way, or they need data presenting in a certain way, we can do it. We don't have to abide by 10 tiers of process to get approvals to do that. If it's very simple. If data needs to be presented in a different way, if something needs to be delivered differently in terms of an explanation or presentation, we can tailor that very specific to the client. So I think that was something that was a very clear challenge, having, as I think everyone in the UK, we are consumers. So to then try and think, okay, how does someone who's a business want to buy off me? So that's probably the biggest challenge.
I think we see that a lot as well, where I talk to early stage entrepreneurs and they'll be talking about their idea, and often they are trying to sell directly to consumer. And what I would say to people is that you can sell 1,000 whatever to people at £10 each and get 10k, or you can sell 10 things for £1,000 each and get the same amount of money. Mm-hmm. And it's different cycles and different levels, but that B2B side is quite often overlooked, where people think about business, they know the brands that they see and they use regularly. But that B2B side can often be, I guess it's like you said, it's harder to relate to, but you can also sometimes make a much bigger impact, because with the clients you're serving, they're also serving a huge number of customers. So you're indirectly helping them too, which is also a massive impact. You mentioned there about the range of the clients, right? So you've got people who are like individual cafes to massive companies. And when you look at that range, was that intentional from the very beginning to have that huge range? Or did you like target one group of customers at the beginning and then move on to different groups? How did that strategy work?
Our ethos was really to hit the area of the market that's being missed. What happened with the energy crisis is energy prices went up massively, which meant a lot of businesses who, I'll take a prime sector, convenience retail, core part of our business. There's a lot of convenience retailers who don't see themselves as sophisticated businesses. They see themselves as having, I've got 5 shops, I've got 10 shops, and I have an energy bill and I pay it. But some of these stores are huge. They have huge energy bills. Across their whole portfolio of multiple stores, their energy spend is significant. And I've got multiple clients like that who spend over £1 million a year on energy. Mm-hmm. If you had £1 million in the bank account, you'd be talking to someone experienced on how to manage that. So our ethos was to help these customers that aren't being talked to by the large consultancies. They're being ignored because they're not big enough, but equally they're not small either. So we targeted that market. But what happened is our success in that area of the market, we pushed on. And then even larger businesses were seeing that on the service side, they're not getting that same treatment from the large consultancies because you become just a number. I think one thing we wanted to really cement into the ENERGYbubble way of working is having run and being an MD of a operational businesses with locations. We understand small things that I have a missing invoice from a supplier. I need it now for the VAT return or something. I understand running a business that I need that now. That's really important to me. It's a small thing, but that's important to me. Small service questions on what does this mean? Over response within 5 minutes. That means a lot to me. So because we were doing that for that kind of mid-tier customer, large customers were coming our way and saying, the big consultancies aren't doing this for us. We ask a question and we get a response in 2 weeks' time, or we get a report that we don't understand and they won't explain it to us in a different way. And we've picked up so many large businesses where we do bespoke reporting for them. We develop their own bespoke platforms with our IT team. And that's what's kind of transitioned us from just doing that mid-sector to basically across the board.
And the amount of demand you've got inbound as well, how have you dealt with that? How have you been able to scale the team or scale the operations to deal with all of that inbound that's coming in so quickly?
Staffing in any business is really, really hard. And I think as any founder, you should look to pay a premium maybe, or give away equity to those who are more experienced. When you start your own business and you might start as, a 50% owner or 100% owner waiting to raise money, you can sometimes watch the bottom line maybe too much, and you can be a bit tight, let's say, and every pound matters. And that's really important, but it can be quite a short view when you look at staffing. Sometimes you've got to give away equity to bring on the best talent, and they'll teach you how to manage these inbound inquiries. Bring on people who have that experience. It comes at a price, but long term that will stop you tripping up months down the line.
And how have you been able to find these people? And I guess, as you said, because you're relatively young, and obviously sometimes you're talking to people who are much older, much more experienced, have you been able to manage those conversations in a way that you're making sure that you're getting the right people on board?
I think it comes from one, enthusiasm, and one, knowledge sharing. Is I don't know everything, and people I speak to don't know everything, but there's elements of their life that they've seen a lot more. I speak to people who have lived and breathed the energy industry since it was created, basically, and we've got people like that involved in our business. I will take that necessary information from them to help better myself, better the business, and they will lean on our experience on how ENERGYbubble's set up to support them with dealing with customers, the bespoke reporting side, however they need to help customers they speak to. So I think in terms of talent and bringing on the right talent, it's very clear when there's a synergy between knowledge gaps where somebody might have the knowledge but might not have the tools to go to clients. I mean, there's somebody we're bringing on quite soon to the team, and they've been in energy for a very, very long time. And some of their clients over the years have been pretty much all the big household brand names. But what they're finding, having worked in a large consultancy for the last few years, is they almost feel a bit chained. They can't be that creative in their suggestions. Because we can offer that, they're really excited about joining us. So I think with talent, if you're not excited about having that person on board because of their experience, and they're not excited about bringing you on board, it doesn't come to pay or reward. You need that excitement for that talent to match.
You mentioned you got like the wide range of clients now, and you're able to service them. What would you say some of your biggest wins so far? Like, here's an opportunity to just share some of the things that you've taken pride in and what the business has done so far.
I think one thing which I'm personally quite proud of is we like to support other businesses, and that comes first, and that helps us have a successful business. By just keeping that at the forefront, that we want to support businesses, that really drives us to gaining more business naturally. One thing we pioneered was an energy due diligence service, which is where businesses can use us. This came from my finance, working in the bank, and we can operate with Chinese walls, set NDAs. When they're considering a transaction and they want to assess the impact of net zero costs on the acquisition, the impact of energy cost changes versus what the business was previously contracted at. Just a bit of clarity on that. If in a business transaction, takeovers, you do a lot of DD. You would have read so many DD packs. However, energy was never really that much on the cards because the price stayed relatively flat. But since the crisis, if you're taking over a business which is on pre-crisis rates, you need to budget for further costs for what's going to come. And what we created is a platform where businesses can trust us through process to assess that element of the transaction for them. And because of that platform, we've supported on some pretty high profile transactions. I mean, one we've supported on recently is Freshways, which is a independently owned business, British Asian owned. They took over Milk and More from Muller Group, well-known brand. So we did the due diligence for that transaction. And we've done a lot for other takeovers, and being involved in transactions like that, it's quite rewarding for myself. We're supporting on transactions, which is helping other businesses grow, and we're giving them the knowledge to do that carefully and creatively.
So you said the idea for ENERGYbubble come from about 1.5 years ago, right? But it's obviously, although what you've achieved so far, you're still quite early in your journey. What are some of the things that you're excited about for the future? Like, let's say you come on again in 1 year's time or 5 years' time. What would you hope to be talking about?
I think one thing we've really pushed is how we've pushed buying as a group, as a concept. We use Energy Buying Group for our retailer side of the business, which is quite a big arm of the business. I think where I want to see it go is leveraging size again. So bringing customers together to say, can we consider doing this as a collective? How we've bought energy, are there other angles where we can lever that unity to perhaps save money or do something in a better way, improve process? So I do think that's a way the business will go. I think it will stay in the energy arm, but there's a variety of things. How businesses cope with net zero. Is there a possibility to do carbon capture projects as a group rather than individual businesses take that challenge on their own? So I think that group concept, I think that's something that is exciting for ENERGYbubble in the future, because we have customers that operate in similar spaces and we deal majority with independent businesses, so they can make decisions like that. And that's sometimes the problem with limiting your clients to only the largest brands or PLCs, is if you have a creative idea that requires your client's input, it's pretty much impossible you're going to get on that journey. Whereas if you've got clients who are really happy to be creative, that can help you develop your own business.
So it's been great to hear your story today. And we're going to have to go to the quick fire questions now. So first one is, who are 3 British Asians you think are doing incredible work and you think the audience listening right now should be paying attention to?
So a very good friend of mine, met at LSE, still a very, very close friend of mine, Aaron Dardi. They had a family business in shoes. He's taken that and kind of flipped it on its head and found a real niche focusing on wide-fitting shoes and how that's marketed. You know, we've all seen high heel adverts on the web, but he's taken a bit of a different approach to what sector they've gone in. And he's having great success. And I think what he's doing is quite interesting. Second, again, somebody I met at LSE, haven't been in contact for a few years, but a gentleman called Harish Mali. He is founder of Goodspeed, and they're a AI no-code app developer. Why I'm mentioning him is I've seen the way they've grown, and he's ex-Google, and he's bootstrapped, and he's done some pretty clever things, and even the way he markets on LinkedIn I find quite smart. So I think that's definitely one to watch. And then another, which a brand people will probably know, is Wingstop, Herman Sahota. Don't know them personally, but the way they've grown, and if you look at the story on how they bootstrapped their way to, I think, touching 100 locations or something like that, is quite inspiring. And it just shows that if you have an idea, bang the drum loud enough and it can spiral quite quickly.
Yeah, awesome to hear those stories, and hopefully we'll share some of those on the podcast as well one day. So next question is, if people want to hear more about you, hear more about ENERGYbubble, where should they go to?
ENERGYbubble team are reachable from all the details on our website. I'm personally trying to be more active on LinkedIn. So anything you want to contact me about regarding energy or transparency, or even just a question on how something works in the industry, our team are more than happy to help.
Is there any way that people listening right now will be able to reach out and help you? Something that you need help with or ENERGYbubble needs help with?
I think if anybody's got an idea for something that's creative in the energy industry, we'd be really happy to support that and help somebody launch a business in that area. We're in, I'd say, the top level of what energy services is in the UK, getting people their energy procurement. But now with all the net zero requirements, carbon reporting requirements, there's a huge gap for softwares to be developed, unique products such as, carbon projects abroad, where if you're backed, you can be quite successful. And I think because we have the client base where it's clear they'll have demands going forward, if you have an idea which can service that business going forward, bearing in mind net zero, then we'd be really happy to talk about that and even consider backing an idea like that.
Awesome. So thank you so much for coming on today. Have you got any final words for the audience?
I think the best advice I've got is not necessarily be pessimistic all the time. Is people are really willing to go to university and risk university fees. So why not just, if you've got an idea, risk taking a bit of time out and trying that. We all take risks. It's just considering it in a different way.
Thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe. See you next time.